right. Well, hey, welcome everybody to our January 2023 Google Educator Group meeting for Ohio. This is a monthly meeting where we take a look at everything new in Google Workspace for Education. We share some tips and tricks. We have a Q&A section, and it's a great way for people to connect if you are a Google using school. Now, I did say GEG Ohio, and as always, though, we want to let you know you're welcome no matter where you're from. Some of the things we talk about a little bit here and there may be specific to Ohio, but for the most part, if you're a Google using educator, you are welcome here, and we are excited to learn with you. Real quick introduction. Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Kurtz. I am a technology integration specialist up here in Northeast Ohio at the Stark County ESC at the Stark Portage Area Computer Consortium. We support about 35 school districts here in Northeast Ohio. I'm joined today, as usual, by John. John, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, good afternoon, Eric, and hello, everybody in the GEG. John Mansell-Pladel. I am with Northern Buckeye Education Council, and we service Northwest Ohio, and we have about 40 school districts that we take care of their technology needs. And it's great to be with you this afternoon.
Well, again, thank you so much, as always, for helping out, John. We do have two other folks who assist as well, and just depending on schedules, sometimes folks can or can't join us. Stephanie Howell and Sarah Kiefer, they may pop in throughout the session, and if not, no worries. That is why we have four of us, so that we can keep the ship sailing. Potentially, we may have a guest jump in as well. I don't know if John, if you've ever met JoJo Farrell, he works for Google. He is one of the reps for our area. I've been chatting back and forth with him, and he may try to jump in today. He's doing a little traveling, so we're not sure, but we'd love to get a little, a little update straight from Google itself. And so JoJo may be able to join us at some point today. So for everybody, though, who is here, we want to make sure, first of all, that you're able to access all of the resources we're going to be taking a look at. You see here, I've got our normal monthly agenda document. If you don't have that pulled up, there's a couple of ways to get to that. One easy way is to go to bit.ly/GEG Ohio. That'll get you to the GEG Ohio website. And from there, there's a monthly meetings section, and that will get you everything you need. If you scroll on down to the monthly meetings, you'll see here's our meeting today, the January 18th meeting, and there's the agenda link right there. That'll get you into that. I'll also, just for the convenience of everybody, I'll just copy and paste the link directly into the chat. So if you're here with us live, there you go. That will also get you right into that document as well. Fantastic. Now, this document is editable, so we would encourage you guys to participate by adding things into this document. There's a few places in here where that would definitely be helpful. For example, we've got an upcoming events section. So if you know of a conference or a webinar or some kind of professional development activity that we don't have listed here, please add that in. Further down in the agenda, there is a show and tell section, and past all of the show and tell resources for the leaders of the group, we do have a community show and tell. You see Matt Mays, my co-worker at the Stark County ESC, has already added in some things. That's fantastic. Please continue to do so. If there's anything you would like to share with the community, you can throw that in right here. And then lastly, there's a Q&A section, which also is a great place to drop in any questions you have, or if you have answers for these questions, please put those in there as well. And of course, all throughout the session, please feel free to use the chat in YouTube. I see a lot of people are already saying hi, and they're introducing themselves. We've got folks from, of course, around Ohio, but I'm seeing, let me see what else. I'm seeing quite a few Ohio's. I'm seeing in Arizona. Oh, I see a Sweden. That's fantastic. We are international. We see some Wisconsin, some Illinois. So we're getting a lot of wonderful folks from all over the place. So thanks so much for being here. And we will keep an eye on the chat throughout the session, and we will try to respond to your questions as we come across those. All right. Well, very good. Well, hopefully that gave everybody a chance to get settled in and to get the document pulled up and to get ready to go. So what I'm going to do, tell you what, John, I'm going to go ahead and just put the document up and take our mugs off the screen there. Don't know that anybody needs to stare at us while we're going through this. And I'm going to go ahead and start heading into our agenda. So we've already done the introductions. If we go down below that, the next thing I want to draw your attention to is the important links. Just like always, want to encourage you guys to sign in. We have a sign-in form here. This allows me to generate a certificate of attendance for you. Pretty simple sign-in form, just your basic information, the date of the meeting, and whether this was your first meeting or not. Would appreciate it if you guys take a moment to fill that out when you get a chance. Next down, we have our group updates. Just always want to remind folks that even though we try to meet once a month, there's a lot of month in between, and you may have questions or comments or needs. And so we do have a Google Education of Ohio group that we have set up as an email group. And you can, let me see how many people are up to now in that group. I think it was almost 1,400 members. That is a fantastic number. That is, think about how many people that is that you can connect with all across Ohio and across the world. And so if you haven't joined our GEG Ohio email group, I would encourage you to consider doing that. And the directions are there for that. Well, that'll bring us up to our next section, which is upcoming events. And again, this section probably a little bit more Ohio specific, but definitely want to give a shout out to these events. So OETC coming up here right around the corner, mid-February. We'll be back in person after several years of having it be a virtual conference. Really looking forward to seeing folks. I am curious, is anybody here going to OETC? If so, feel free to throw in the chat that you're going to be going there. I would love to connect with you guys while we're there. I will be at OETC as well. And I'm excited that on the third day of OETC, I'll actually have an opportunity to be doing one of the keynotes. And so that little bit scary to be, standing there on the stage that I've watched so many people present on there before, but an incredible honor to do so. So I hope I do you guys proud as I will be there for that as well as many other sessions. Next up, we've got some other events.
Eric,
Oh, please go ahead.
I'll just add in the Leading for Learning meeting this morning, they did share that anybody that's put in to present at OETC, they should be mail merging out the acceptance letters and everything today. So we should be hearing today anybody else that's presenting there. And I'm going to be presenting a couple of sessions, one about the Ohio learning community, and I put in another one to talk about Seesaw. So I'm hoping that those two will be accepted.
Well, thank you for mentioning that, John. I totally forgot because I was in that meeting this morning as well. And that's a really important message to put out there that they are sending out, hopefully later today, the emails for people that submitted concurrent sessions, which I submitted a bunch of those as well. Just the standard, hour-long, 45-minute-long sessions. I submitted a bunch of those. So I'm eager as well to see, besides the keynote address that I'll be doing on the final day, what other sessions I will be presenting. So hang tight for those of you who have submitted those, and hopefully you'll be getting that information later today. That's awesome. Seen a lot of people saying that they are going to be at the OETC conference. So I'm really excited for that. That's fantastic. Looking forward to seeing you guys there. So next up, the Neotech conference. This is from Neonet, which is a similar organization to Spark. They're just a little further north of us. Dan does a fantastic conference there each year, coming up on March 14th. Call for presenters is open. Now, Neotech does do a nice hybrid approach there, where you can go in person. You can also watch the sessions remotely. Sessions are available after the fact as well. People can present live, and they can also submit recordings if they're not able to present live. So they try to hit just like every single base there. And that's fantastic. It is a free conference. So, hey, if you're not an Ohio person, here's another great conference that you can plug into no matter where you are from. And then other than that, we've got several others listed here. The last one that I'll give a shout out to that I can speak intelligently about would be the iTip conference. That is our annual Google Summit that has been going on for many years now, usually pops back and forth between Columbus and Sandusky. It's back up at Sandusky this year. That'll be May 16th and 17th. And I'm very excited. I will be speaking at the iTip Summit as well, and looking forward to seeing people there. Always a fantastic Google specific conference there. Now I see somebody has thrown in the DitchedCon 2023, so thanks for adding that in there. I am not familiar with that, so that's going to be one I'm going to need to click on and take a look at. So thanks, that's fantastic. Love it, love it, love it. All right. Well, if anybody else, John, if you have anything to add to any of these, feel free to. I don't know a lot about the Leadership Summit, for example, and some of these other ones, so I won't speak to those. Now, I have been to McCall. It's a fantastic conference, and just around the corner from us here in Ohio as well. Well, again, thanks everybody for those who have added to this. Please continue to do so. These are great ways for us all to take advantage of these learning opportunities. Good stuff. All right. Well, let's keep on moving. We're going to now go into the main portion of our meeting each month, which is what's new in Google. As we've always said, Google is a moving target, constantly adding new features and new updates. And so we try to keep you in the loop so that you don't get caught off guard when something new rolls out to Google, but also so that you can help take advantage of these great features to ultimately support your teachers and engage your students. So quick explanation in case you haven't seen this before. What we have is a quick little emoji key here to let you know if some of these items are only for specific tiers of the Google Workspace for Education platform. The Education Fundamentals, that's the free tier that everybody can have. And then after that, you've got Standard, Teaching and Learning, Upgrade, and Education Plus. So I've used these little emoji icons next to these if it is something that does have, if it's a specific update to Workspace for Education as to which ones that would apply to. Now, if there's nothing next to it, then it's just a general update that, really applies to everybody. But if it's a specific update, I've either listed that all of the education tiers get it, or in some cases, unfortunately, there's some that only go out to certain tiers. It might just be the Education Plus. It may just be Teaching and Learning and Education Plus, things like that. So what we've done is we've been off for about a month and a half just because we had winter break in there. So this one we got a little bit more to try to move through these, though, in a reasonable manner. I've decided to just pick a few that I thought, these would be good ones to highlight. So the ones where you see the date in bold, those are the ones that as I look down through the list, I decided let's take at least a moment to chat about these. Now, if I'm skipping over something that you're interested in, please let us know. We'd be happy to talk about any of these. And of course, the links are all there for you, so you can investigate any of these on your own as well. All right. Now, while I go through this, John, just let me know at any point if you would like to comment on any of these. And before I go even further, I did see JoJo Farrell has joined us. Hey, JoJo, thanks so much for being here. Let me get a moment to pull you in here with us. Hey, Joe. So I don't want to put you on the spot right now if you're not ready to speak, but if this is a good time for you and if you wanted to address the group, we want to be sensitive to your schedule and the fact that you're trying to squeeze us in with all of your travels.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric. I appreciate it. Hi, everybody. I'm JoJo Farrell from the Google for Education team, and I'm super excited because I'm going to be coming out to OETC this year for the first time, and I'm actually going to be working a little closer with some of the larger school districts in Ohio. So I'm thrilled to get to know some of you all. I'm hoping to see people at the conference. If you are coming, we'll have a booth there. Google hasn't been there in a few years, so we're super excited to be back. My colleague Clay Smith of Clay Code's infamy will be joining me and actually might be jumping on this call to say hello as well. So we'll both be out there, and we're just thrilled. We love all that we hear that's coming out of Ohio. So we're super excited, and I know this call reaches far beyond Ohio. So just happy to be here. And I formerly of New York City Public Schools, where Control Alt Achieve saved me many a time. So it's a thrill also just to be here. So thanks for giving me a little airtime, Eric. And hello, John. And looking forward to more collaborations. And I'm going to hang out. I am just going in between events, so I'm moving in a car. But
All right.
but thanks for
again,
having us.
JoJo, I really appreciate you taking the time to say hi. For those who haven't had a chance to meet JoJo, if you do go to OETC, absolutely say hi. Same for Clay as well. Fantastic folks. JoJo, if you have anything at any point throughout the session that you do want to say, feel free to jump in. Absolutely. This is very informal. If you've got anything that you want to throw out to the group, since you've got a bunch of Google using educators here, if you want to get feedback from them, please feel free to do so as well. But
awesome. That's great to know. And well, I mean, we know that you're going to be updating us all with the latest and greatest, but we are really excited. Cast Moderator and Screencast have now been out there for a while, so always curious to kind of hear how that's going. I'm also, another note, I'm going to drop a link in here. If anyone's presenting at OETC and doing some Google related sessions, and I know, Eric, you have yours posted, I'd love to come by and support you there and, drop some swag in the room.
Excellent.
Too. So I have a very quick form that I can pop in here, or if that's overkill, Eric, and you already have all that info.
No, that's fantastic. Yeah, anything that you want to add, you can drop it in the chat. You can also, when you are at a spot where it's easy to get back to the agenda, you can always put that right into the agenda. It is an editable agenda, and you can add things directly to that.
Great. I'll do that as well.
All right. Fantastic. Thanks so very much.
Awesome.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and move back over to our What's New in Google, but I saw JoJo pop in and I just wanted to make sure that we were taking advantage of him while he was able to be here with us. All right. So let's go ahead and start running through some of these updates. One of the first updates we're going to hit came out right after our last meeting. Just missed this one. And that is Chrome Enterprise is now getting the ability to roll back to prior versions of ChromeOS. So here's the idea behind this. If you have Chromebooks that have updated, as they do, each month or so to their newest version, what if you have a Chromebook that updated to a newer version and you realize, oh no, I needed it to be on an earlier version, maybe for state testing. Maybe there was some requirement that, it's on 109 and I really needed it on 107 because we just, discovered, state testing is not working on such and such. Now, I'm not actually stating that. I'm just using that as a fictitious example. But, what if that was the case? That has happened before, at which point I have gone out and I have, physically, power washed Chromebooks and put them back on an earlier version. It was a cumbersome task. It was a lot of, physically touching the devices. Well, the nice thing is this can be done in the admin console now. So there's two resource links here. The second one is more of the detailed help page that talks you through how that works. Now, I know not everybody here is an admin, so this may not really apply to you so much. But for those that are, if you're not aware of this, I just wanted to get it on your radar. So I'm just going to show you real quick where this is found. So I'm going to jump into my admin console real quick here. Just going to show you where you can do this rollback if you need to do it. So what you would do is you would head to your devices, you'd go down to Chrome, you'd go down to settings, and you'd go down to device settings. So I've gone 4 levels deep into there. So this is normally where you go to set up, the specific settings for your Chromebooks. Well, at this point, I could then drill down into a specific OU. I might say, let's go to my ChromeOS OU, and maybe I need to do this for the 5th and 6th grade devices, for example. That's just an example. Well, if I do that, if I drill down into those devices, what I can do now is scroll down over here on the right, and there's an option. If I go down to, let me see if I can find the section. There it is, device settings updates. So here is your device update settings. And what you can do is there's a spot here for rollback. And the way it works is it comes in two. You got to do two things. You have to say what the target version is. So like I could say, I need to put this on 107. And then if I said that, then I could say, go ahead and do a rollback to that target version. So it's not just a one-click thing. There's two things. You set the target version here, and then you tell it that you want to do a rollback to that, and it will go ahead and roll back those devices. Now, keep in mind, it is going to wipe them. They will get power washed in the process as it rolls them back, but it's going to be able to do it without you having to go touch, 100 devices if you needed to do that. So just wanted to get that on your radar, especially for those who need to manage a lot of devices. That may bring a little bit of relief for you. All right, let's keep on going. Next up, in December, we got a neat Google Doodle that caught my attention that I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of. Now, normally Google Doodles, they're cute. It's a little artistic graphic that connects to some sort of an event or a holiday or something like that, but sometimes they're interactive. And so this one really went above and beyond. So this is a Google Doodle about Jerry Lawson, one of the first Black engineers to work in the video game industry. Now, it does let you learn about him, which is awesome, but it also lets you play games, and it lets you create and share your own video games. The Doodle does all of that. And so, first of all, this is just great to be able to come here and learn about Jerry. There's a lot of great information here. They've got an arts and culture page on him as well. Fantastic. But then if you go into the actual Doodle itself, what we can do here, let me go back to my homepage there. There we go. From the homepage, I can play 5 different games, but then I can modify these or build my own game. And what's so crazy here, let me see, hopefully that's not too loud for you guys. I probably have a spot in here where I can turn off the audio. I didn't think to do that earlier. Sorry about that. But I can come in here and I can add characters. I can add blocks. I can add flags. I can add enemies. I can add keys, switches. There's an eraser. There's a style, and of course an undo. And I can build a playable game here. And then after I have built that playable game, I can share that out with others. And again, apologize. I'm sure there's a spot in here where I could go in to turn off the audio. So I'm just going to exit out of it so that it's not making any more noise there. But I love this because what a neat way for students, if it's a STEM sort of a project, to be able to go in and make their own video game and be able to share that, as well as learning about Jerry Lawson in the process. Fantastic stuff. All right, good deal. Next up, another quick update that came out recently is a quick way to search your tabs, bookmarks, and history in the Chrome address bar. So what has happened now is that if you're needing to quickly find a bookmark, which, trust me, you get enough bookmarks, I know what that's like. It's like, okay, I know I've got this bookmarked somewhere, but it's in a folder and a folder and a folder. Or, I want to get really quickly back to something from my history, or I've got too many tabs open and I can't find the right tab. What we can do now is we can simply type in the @ symbol in the address bar and then choose what we want to search, our history, our tabs, or our bookmarks. So for example, I'll just pull over, here's my other account. We'll just pull this one over real quick and I'll demonstrate it here. So if I come in here and I click the @ I type in the @ symbol and I say, okay, I'm going to search my bookmarks, and I know I've got some bookmarks in here about Google Drawings. Well, as I start typing in the word draw, it is searching through all of my bookmarks and it's finding, oh yeah, here's that slideshow you've got bookmarked. Here's those examples that you've got bookmarked, and I can just get to them so much quicker there. So I thought that was really awesome to have that as a quick, helpful resource for us there. Good stuff. All right. Next up, let's see. We'll skip on down to the next bolded one. Again, if I skip over something you guys are interested in, please just give me a holler. Let me know. So the next one, Google Sheets got some updates to the data validation feature in there. Now, the way it's been worded here is that it's been updated with an easier to use side panel. And, I think I would ultimately agree with that, but any change is difficult. And so I've had a number of people reach out to me say, whoa, I went into my spreadsheet and things are really weird now. I'm not sure how to change my data validation, or I'm not sure where it went. So I think we definitely, maybe ultimately, this will be an easier to use side panel, but I think it's a little bit of a learning curve once people are first being exposed to it. It also adds one additional feature, which is color coding that we didn't have in data validation. So let me show you this as well. So I'm going to pull over another spreadsheet here. Now, this is not a real spreadsheet. I think I've shown this one many times before. These are fake students. It's fake scores. This is not any real student data here. This is the one I always use anytime that I want to do a quick demonstration on spreadsheets. And so let's say that I wanted to add in some data validation here. So for example, notice how I've got a column for what class period the students are in. And in this case, it's either period 3 or 7. Well, what if I wanted to make sure that's exactly what was typed in there? I didn't want somebody to type a 2 or a 5 because only 3 and 7 are valid options, for example. Well, normally that's what we use data validation for, to say, okay, I'm going to limit what you're allowed to put in those cells. Well, here's the new workflow. It's just a little bit different than before. So now if I were to come in here and select that column, and if I would go up to data and I go down to data validation, it used to do a pop-up window. It now opens up a panel. So there you get this panel on the side, a lot like conditional formatting, a lot like a lot of the features that you see in spreadsheets, they're moving to more of this side panel. I can come here and say, I want to add a rule. And for that rule, I can say, okay, what's the range going to be? Well, I don't technically need to go from cell F1. I guess I could make that cell F2. Doesn't really need to go from the top cell, but from the second one down. And then you can say what kind of criteria you're going to have here. Now, sometimes data validation is nothing more than saying, well, it just has to be a number. So I could just simply say, this needs to be, a number that is greater than, 0. And then nobody's allowed to type in something other than a number that's greater than 0. Or I could say, I specifically want it to be from a drop-down specific values. You can either type in a 3 or you can type in a 7, and that's all you're allowed to type in, a 3 or a 7. And that way you get this drop down there, and you will actually have to choose the 3 or the 7. You're not allowed to choose other things to put in that box. So that is not different. We've been able to do that before. It just wasn't in the side panel. It was in a pop-up window here instead. Now, couple other little things. Remember, I said it also gives you now the option to color code. We did not have that before. So I could say not only are 3 and 7 the only choices, but 3 is going to be a light green and 7 is going to be a light purple. So that could, that's an additional way to clue you in and easily, quickly see the choices that you've made there. Now, if you say, yeah, but this looks weird, I'm not used to these these chippy things here. I like the way it looked before. There is an advanced options down here where if you don't want to use the chip option, you can say, well, let's just use the, a drop-down arrow or just a plain text. And the drop-down arrow is typically what you would have seen before, where you just saw a drop-down arrow and then you chose it from there. And of course, you don't have to use the colors here. You could say reset, and you could take the colors off if you didn't want that. So I just want you to know it's still all there, okay? You're still allowed to do what you've done before. It's just over on the side now, and you can now have access to all of those data validation rules, which that's not a bad thing, because that was one of the difficult things sometimes, is finding, okay, where are all of my data validation rules? I can't remember which cells I've done this to. Well, now you can see them all listed out, all of your different rules. So anyway, just wanted to make sure everybody was up to speed on that, because it is a little bit of a transition and might be something to get used to for you there. All right.
That's a nice addition, Eric.
Yeah, it is. And it's also, I think, coming alongside of what we've seen in Google Docs with the drop-down chips. So the same kind of idea of having a drop-down chip inside of Google Docs, they're taking that same format, that same look and feel, and extending it into Google Sheets by just slightly augmenting the data validation. Now, we haven't lost any features. We've gained a couple of features in this change.
And I'll just mention that often Google Sheets is used as a backend for a Google form, and that you can do some data validation on the form, but obviously your data is only as accurate as the person entering it. So if you can do these validations on it, it does make your life easier when you go to try and do something with that data.
Right. Oh, so John, such an important thing. I think that is one of the very first things whenever I'm helping, somebody take something they've done on paper and turn it into a digital workflow, is like, okay, well, let's go back to the basics. What data do you really want to collect? What should they be allowed to put in? Because you're right, your ability to analyze it is only as good as the data that you collect. And so having tools like this to help keep the data, clean the way you want it goes a really long way. And again, thanks everybody for the great comments. I'm seeing some wonderful comments popping up here in the chat. Let's see. Beth was excited about the new feature, and I'm assuming she's referring to the ability to roll back the Chromebooks. And Peggy saying, what a great search feature that we have with that @ symbol. Absolutely. Great stuff there. All right, let's keep on going, guys. Next up. All right, in Google Slides, we now have a new feature called the follow feature, so that if 2 or more people are inside of a Google slideshow, you can follow one of the people wherever they click, so that you don't have to keep clicking to keep up with them. Best way to show this is to actually show it. So let me do this. Let me pull up. I've got a number of windows here. Let me find the right window here to pull up here. Here we go. So here is a tab on my Chromebooks can do that slideshow presentation. And this is a different account. This is my trainer account over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that link and I'm going to open it in my work account. So I'm going to be in it twice. So here I'm in my regular Spark work account. Here I'm in my Google Trainer account. Now, the idea is this: because we're both inside of this, let's say that my trainer account is the one who's explaining something. I'm trying to run somebody through something. And so my work account is trying to follow along. Well, what I can do is all I need to do is go up to the top, and where I can see the little icon of the other person who's in here with me. So, there's Eric's trainer account. If I simply click on the little avatar up here, notice it says following. As long as I've clicked on that, and as long as I don't click anywhere else onto different slides, I'm now following that person. Well, what does that mean? Well, let's bring that account back over. So let's say I say, hey, I need you to take a look at a slide, and I come down here and I choose a slide about, screen capturing. Well, when I click on it in this account, it automatically jumps over to the slide in the other account that's following. And so if I go through here and say, so does this look good? And when JoJo was on here a moment ago, he was talking about the new screencast tool. And, here's the information about that. And I'm going in and I'm explaining that. Well, while I'm clicking on it as the person who's doing the explanation, anybody who is following me it automatically jumps to that slide for them. I think that's great. That's a nice way to be able to help people be a little bit more connected when they're having a conversation about something like this. Now, if I click somewhere else as the follower, as soon as I click somewhere else, boop, it removes the following. So now I can go anywhere I want, of course. So just heads up on that. Neat little feature that got added in there, and definitely worth being aware of.
And that, I guess, it emphasizes as a presenter that you have you have a number of different ways that you can present to your audience. And I know during COVID, when we were doing a lot of remote presenting, and if you only had one monitor, then having slides take over your entire screen wasn't maybe the best way to do it, because you could, especially if you were in Zoom or you were running a virtual meeting at the same time, window management was difficult. So I often reverted to using presentations where I didn't actually put it into presentation mode. And that would have been handy to have that feature so that people could follow me, because then you can, if you need to skip some slides or you need to go back, rather than scrolling or using the back button, you can just click on the slide that you want. And as a presenter, it's always nice to have more options.
Absolutely. And Peggy agrees. She goes, that's cool. Love not having to keep clicking on the slides to try to find where the presenter is at. Absolutely agree with that. Well, very good. Well, let's keep on moving. Next up, I did skip this one, but it is fun. If you want to take a look at it, Google Arts and Culture did launch their Beethoven Beats, an AI experiment that's kind of like, I'm going to forget the name of it now. Guitar Hero. That's right. It is that type of a rhythm game, but you get to do it with some classical music instead. So I didn't highlight that one, but it is a hoot. Check that out. Okay. The next thing that I did decide to highlight was that Google announced their favorite Chrome extensions of 2022. And so this blog post goes through all of them, but I went ahead and pulled several of them down into this bulleted list. Now, if any of you guys have used any of these, I'd love to hear from you. If you want to give a shout out to one of these, please feel free to throw that into the chat. Would love to hear what your take is on some of these. I'm familiar with a few of them, like Equatio. I'm always singing the praises of Equatio. It's from the text help folks who do read and write for Google Chrome. Equatio is a wonderful way to be able to add math and science to pretty much anything Googly related, whether it's a document, a slideshow, a form. Very easy way to add mathematical equations and scientific expressions and so forth. And I do know about CRX mouse gestures. That's one I include in my accessibility session. It allows you to just make mouse gestures with your mouse to move forward, to go back, to open things up, and so forth. Most of the rest of these, though, I'm not as familiar with. I did dive into each of them just enough to like check it out and be like, oh, I see what that does. That's cool. The one that I was going to show for you guys, because I'll only pick one, there's so many here, I'm just going to pick one out of the list to demonstrate, is this one called Swift Read. And Swift Read is an extension that initially is designed for speed reading. That's the intention behind it. But as I've said many, many, many times, you give an educator any tool and we're going to find 3 other ways to use it that you may not have thought of. And so this actually, I think, can be a good extension to also help students that are struggling to read. Because even though it's designed to make you into a speed reader, you're allowed to adjust the reading speed, which could help somebody stay focused and not lose their way. So let me show you what I mean. So let me grab, again, another tab here. So let me find... let me see. See which one I've got this installed on. I think I have it installed on is it installed on this one? Oh, I do have it installed on this one. Good. I wasn't sure. I didn't know if I needed to grab my other account or if this one's okay. I do have Swift. There it is. I've got it installed right there. There's Swift Read. That's a danger of too many accounts. I forget sometimes which account has which thing on it. So let's say I'm at Dogo News and I want to read this article about the coldest place on Earth. Well, if I come up and give a click on my Swift Read icon here, I can say I want to Swift read this page. Now I can also select the specific text. I'm just going to say, let's Swift read the page. And what it's going to do is it's just going to grab all the text from the page, which probably isn't the best way because it's going to pick up like some captions and some other things that aren't really a part of the article. So that's okay. So here's the idea. What it does is it pulls the text out. And then if I go down and hit the play button, it's going to start going through the text at the words per minute that I've chosen up here. Now it's at 300 words per minute at a moment, which, that's a little bit quick there. But if I hit the play button, you'll see it is now going through one word at a time. And I could read along with that if I wanted to. If I move my mouse down to the bottom, I can also see the context that's being pulled out of as well. Now, like I said, though, maybe this is great if you say, oh, this is going to help me move quickly through some text. Well, hold on. Let's pause it for a second. We can come up here and say, let's slow this down. Let's take this words per minute down to like 100 words per minute. And now let's hit play. And so now it's moving a lot slower. Maybe we need it even slower than that. No worries. Let's take it down to 25 words per minute. And what's nice about this is now it is just going one word at a time at a very slow pace, but it's allowing, for example, the student to be able to stay on the correct line. They're not, jumping up or jumping down. They're just moving one word at a time through that text. And then as they are ready to start increasing their speed, they can come up here and start adjusting the words per minute. Now, I'm going to pause this again because there's a few other settings you can tweak. If you go into the settings here, you can change things like, do you always want to see the context of where the text is coming from, or just when you're down at the bottom? If you say always, you'll always see the text around it as well. Plus, you can also adjust what is the increase decrease interval. I've got it set at 25 words, so I can jump up or down 25 words per minute at a time. Well, I could take that down to 1 or 5 or whatever, so you could really fine tune this. And I could say, okay, now let's do that. So now that I've done that, if I go, I just closed out of it. Let's open it back up. My fault. See, I do that all the time. There we go. There we go. Now I can go up to the words per minute, and I can move it at 5 words per minute at a time. So maybe 25 was too slow, and I want to put it at 35. And if I hit play now, it's going to go through those words. There we go. And I'm always going to have the context. I don't have to hover anywhere. It's leaving the context there the whole time. So anyway, just wanted to get that one on your radar. It's a tool that's designed for speed reading, but hey, you know what? This could be a great tool to help support a struggling reader as well.
So
anyway,
Eric, you have triggered a memory in me from a very, very, very long time ago. I was in elementary school in the mid to late 70s. And when I was in 6th grade, I remember that they brought in this machine. It was kind of like a projector, but the objective was to teach us how to speed read. Mm-hmm. And it actually did work. I mean, I became a much faster reader as a result of that. But I don't know if a similar thing happened in the United States, but certainly in schools in New South Wales, Australia, in the mid 1970s, speed reading was something they were starting to teach you in 6th grade.
Well, that's interesting. I do not recall in my education speed reading ever popping up. It's always been something that's fascinated me, but I don't believe I've ever received any formal instruction on it. But it seems like several people are commenting on some of these extensions here. I see how Michelle's saying that she likes that you can change the background color in there. I didn't even try that. That's great to know that must be in the settings there as well. Michelle mentioning that this would be great for increasing reading fluency. Absolutely. Very, very good. A couple of the other ones here, Liz mentioned about eJoy seeming to be exciting. So eJoy, at first, it may look like, this is just, something for watching movies and videos. Well, the real key to this is that it allows for dual subtitles. Now, that's pretty clever, because what that means is this could help with learning a language while watching a movie, or watching a video, because you could have dual subtitles in your language and in the other language and be able to jump, and see those at the same time. Now, that's fantastic. For what it's worth, I came across another one earlier than that, which I put down in my show and tell that even goes a little further. It's this one, and I apologize, I still don't know how to pronounce it, if it's Glot Dojo or Glow Dojo, but there it is. It lets you view up to 3 different translations at once. Now, I don't know if you need 3 translations, but 2 may be just enough. But this one does the same sort of thing, but you can have 3 different translations running at the same time in the subtitles. So if all you need is 2, I think that the Enjoy one is probably going to do that. That other one I have down in my show and tell, though, can go up to 3 different languages at one time. I did see Matt Mays mentioned that for those of you who do training or help guides, that the Tango one seems very similar to IORAD. And I would agree with you, Matt. Yes. IORAD is an extension, is a tool I think many of us are familiar with, has been around for a long time, does a fantastic job of letting you go step by step through a process. And then it basically takes screenshots as you go, and it tracks every click and everything you do, and it builds your own step-by-step help guide. Tango, same kind of idea. As you go through something, every time you click, it's taking a screenshot, it's recording what you did, and it can build step-by-step how-to guides while you're going through some things there. Good stuff there. Awesome. Well, anyway, just wanted you to know Google considered these some of the best extensions of 2022. So I wanted to get them out there and encourage you to explore some of these as well. All right, let's keep on moving. Just a couple more things. Tail end of December, we found out that there are going to be more filter effects available in Google Meet. And these include some sort of like 3D filters where you can be a strawberry, you can be a working bunny, or you can be a loghead. So for what it's worth, these are in the filters section in Google Meet under the effects, and you can turn those on. But the key is they're off by default for education. You have to go in and turn these on. So if you're saying, oh, that looks kind of neat, that might be fun, or maybe you're like, well, these three don't necessarily excite me, but I'm sure they're going to add, more and more and more over time. And there might be one that would really fit in very well to a particular educational theme that you're, working within. Well, heads up, they're off by default for education users. You do need to go into your apps icon in the admin console, and then go to the Google Workspace apps, go to the Google Meet apps, and go into the Meet video settings. That's where you're going to find the ability to turn on special effects. And you can do this by organizational unit. You can say students don't have this, but teachers do, but just be aware, if you haven't seen it, it is off by default. Your admin has to go in and turn that on if you have not seen that show up yet. All right. Well, speaking of Meet, there is another one further down, which is that Google has added Meet reactions to Google Meet as well. So I'll just catch that since those kind of go hand in hand with each other. And so what I mean by that is you now have in Google Meet a little reactions button here, and you can click on that. And when you do, you'll get these different reactions that pop up, and you can, do a thumbs up or a thumbs down or a heart, and those will travel up the right, I believe the left-hand side of the screen as people are clicking on those, and they'll also be superimposed on their tile, so how they are feeling about a particular thing in the meeting. So wanted you to be aware of those updates to Google Meet as well. Cool. All right, couple more things, and I think we're about to the end of our updates before we move on to show and tell. So the other things in January, things we've seen so far this month, Google is rolling out a new option to view non-printing characters in Google Docs. Now, I haven't seen it yet. It's supposed to be up in the view menu, and it hasn't made it out to me yet. I do see that this is rolling out. They said it was starting on the 9th. Today is the 18th. So they said it's up to 15 days for future visibility, and even later for those on the scheduled release. We're on the rapid release. So it hasn't made it out to me yet. But what's the idea behind this? Well, the idea is if you go up to the view menu, you'll be able to choose show non-printing characters. And this is going to show you spaces. It's going to show you tabs. It's going to show you line breaks. It's going to show you section breaks. All of those things are going to show up. Now, this is a feature that Microsoft Word has had, as long as I can remember. It's been around, and it's one that I sorely missed inside of Google Docs. And I'm so glad that it is now available or is rolling out now, because sometimes you're working on a document and things just aren't lining up right. Things are acting funny, and you're like, what is going on here? Why will this not line up the way I want? And you may not realize that there's some tabs that you're not noticing, or there's some spaces that are throwing some things off, and you can't see them as easily without turning on the hidden characters. Now, what I used to recommend people is there was actually an extension. There was an add-on, not an extension, apologies. There was an add-on, and there still is, called Show, just SHOW. And Show was a Google Docs add-on that would temporarily go through and replace all of your spaces and tabs with actual characters to show you where they were. Then you could run it again, and it would take them back out. So it actually edited your document temporarily, but it was all we had. That was really the only option we had. So glad to see this is just going to be a normal thing, just part of Google Docs, which we could all benefit from having that. So glad to see that. And then the last couple of things here. Oh, speaking of Google Doodles, we were talking about the Jerry Lawson one earlier. Heads up that the Doodle for Google competition is now open. This is an annual competition for all grades. And they've picked a theme, which is I am grateful for. This I believe is open until sometime in March. I'll have to take a look again at the details here to remind myself. Yes, March 7th. So you have until March 7th to create a Google Doodle that, in this case, fits the theme I am grateful for. And then that can be submitted. And they have categories from grades K up to 12, broken into 5 different categories. And then they've got different levels of finalists as well. And of course, they have prizes as well, cash prizes, scholarships, Google hardware, fun Google swag, and so forth. Really a neat opportunity every year, something I always look forward to encourage people to get creative and have their students create their Google Doodle for the theme of the year. Good stuff. And the final update that I have on the list here, and we'll then take a pause and see if we missed anything, is an update to the ChromeOS screen capture tool. All right, so when JoJo was chatting a little bit a while ago, you heard him talking about the screen casting tool that we now have in ChromeOS, which is sort of like the evolution of the screen capture tool. So I don't know if this will apply to both of those or if this will just apply to the screen capture tool, but somebody who's been able to look around at some of the alpha releases, because you can switch your Chromebook into the beta channel or the alpha channel or the developer channel. I think they call it the canary channel because it's the one that, like the canary in a coal mine. It's like you're trying to see, does all this stuff work or not? It's where they test the newest features. There is an option. Let me pull this up so you guys can see this. And if it makes noise, nope, I don't think it's going to. I think nope. There, I'll make that quiet. There we go. So what's going to happen is when you turn on the screen capture tool inside of ChromeOS, you'll now have the ability to tell it that you want it to show every time you click the mouse or every time you press keys on the keyboard. So notice while they're typing on the keyboard, it is showing what keys are being touched, so that while you're explaining, oh, press Control C, it's going to actually show Control C. And while anytime you click on something, you're going to see that little gray circle pop up around where the mouse clicked, so that it shows better where it is that you are clicking. That's just going to be another setting right inside of the screen capture toolbar, so that when you click on that, in addition to saying, I want to record my whole screen or part of my screen, or I want to save it to my drive, or I want to save it to the memory, it's just going to be one more option in there that's going to allow you to have the clicks and the keyboard touches shown on there. Oh, here's a little picture that shows you turning that on. So that same toolbar where you choose what you want to record, show clicks and keys. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that's so nice. Now you can just have it off if you don't need it, but what a nice way to have that on while you're doing an instructional video to help people follow along even more so. Pretty nifty like that. All right. Well, I'm going to pause there for a second because I know that was a lot of stuff. We're going to move into show and tell here in just a second. I do see we've had a lot of conversation going on in the chat since the last time I took a look at it here. Some questions were about the pricing for some of these tools like Tango and IORAD. And it looks like we were getting some feedback on that. Matt was mentioning that Tango is freemium. And much the same as IORAD. There are some basic features that are for free, but there's more robust features for a monthly fee. And it looks like John identified that as $16 a month there. All right. Anything else there, John? Did we miss something in there that would be that we need to swing back around and take a look at before we move into show and tell?
No, I think you covered it well, Eric. And again, it's always difficult to know which ones to pick when you have a month or more of updates because things move so quickly with Google.
Absolutely. Yes. Dan's on here and he goes, Screencastify who? Yeah. And then listen, I love Screencastify. I still use Screencastify at least, once a week to answer somebody's email. It's just an easy way for me to record a response to them and show them how to do something and send it off. But Dan, you're right. We're getting so many amazing tools, so many great tools. And again, I think that makes everybody better. As these tools come out, then all the other companies will respond to that and continue to innovate and develop and make things more and more powerful as they go. So really excited to see all of that. All right. Very, very, very good. Love it. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on. If I missed anything, please let me know. Feel free to throw stuff in the chat. Feel free to add comments right here into the document. But we're going to move on to the next portion of our meeting, which is our show and tell. And this is where John and if Sarah or if Stephanie are on, they'll share cool things that they've come across, neat ideas, neat resources. I do the same. And then we also encourage you guys to do the same as well. There's a section here called Community Show and Tell, and we encourage you very much to add any resources that you have in there. Now, John, I didn't see anything listed in here. Did you have anything to add this month, or were you just going to provide color commentary?
I'm just going to do color. Well, I have one tip, and I can't find the actual details so that I can share it correctly. And if I do before the end, but you probably already know, our good friend John Sowash shared in an email or in one of his newsletters a keyboard shortcut combination that when you're in Chrome lets you brings up basically a file picker from Google Drive, and I didn't even know that existed. I think it's Command-Shift-G, I think it is on a Mac, or it might be Command-Option-G. So I'm going to find out what it is and share it. But it was something that I didn't even know was there. And if you actually wanted a really quick way to get to Google Drive to find a file, and we're all about trying to do things as efficiently as possible, I will share that shortcut. I will look for it.
Well, and if it was from John Sowash, definitely a valuable tip. If you guys don't follow John Sowash, you absolutely should be doing so. He is a very googly person as well, with a strong focus on ChromeOS and Chromebooks, and shares fantastic resources. He's one of the many folks that I subscribe to their blogs in my RSS aggregator and read every week the stuff that he shares out. Well, let's go ahead and I'll do my show and tell. And John, in the meantime, if you do come across anything, feel free to throw that in there as well. So do not be frightened by the amount of stuff in here. I promise I'm really not going through all of these things. I'm just providing these links to you. Please feel free to take advantage of them. I'll only comment on a few of these items here. As always, I encourage you to join my email discussion group if you haven't joined that yet. We've got, I think we're over 500, close to 600 people in there now. Just started this up about a month or so ago, and it's a group that is just fantastic educators from all around, sharing wonderful resources, asking questions and sharing resources. I also have my weekly newsletter that if you want to sign up for that to stay in the loop on things. So what I've been doing for the last couple of months is I've started doing my EdTech links of the week. Now, this is something I do share out in my newsletter, but I also do it as a live stream on Monday nights. And so you can go back quite a number of weeks now to see previous ones that I have done. And so, for example, I just did one here on the 16th. So just 2 days ago. This link will take you out to my blog post on that. And you can watch those recorded live streams. And of course, you can always join them as well. But the gist is basically, I tried to share about 5 cool things I came across in the last week. So like this last week, I talked about Talking Points, which is a totally free service that lets parents and teachers text each other, and it translates the texts live into over 145 languages. So it breaks down those barriers between parents and teachers if English is not necessarily their primary language. Then I talked about like Story Voice, which is a free online read aloud site where they seems like every week they have one or more authors that are on there reading a book and then taking questions from the students that are watching live. I talked about History Maps, a really cool animated history site that covers all of history with animated maps, pictures, videos, and detailed explanations. I talked about Bean Bean Bean, which is like the free rice website where you answer questions to have food donated to other countries in need. This is the same thing with beans as the theme, and then resources are donated to charities from that. And then I talked about Chat GPT detectors. So two of the more well-known ones right now, Chat GPT 0, and then the one from, I think this is the Hugging Face one that they put out from OpenAI there. And these allow you to paste in content that is maybe written by a person, maybe written by an AI, and then it runs tests on there and comes back with, yes, this is real, or no, this is most likely fake, or this one, ChatGPT 0, checks a lot of things. It checks perplexity, it checks burstiness. How about that for a new vocab word for you? Burstiness. It checks all of that and then gives a rating as to whether this is AI generated or not. I also then in these, I do share like my recent things as well. So if there's something that I have put on my blog, this is an easy way for me to get people up to date on any new things I've shared as well. So just want to say, click back through these, start diving into them. Actually, everything is also in this document. I've got a document at bit.ly/CAA live for Control-Alt-Achieve Live. That's another easy way because you can just scroll back as far as you want. And you can see, week after week after week, there's 4 or 5 links of the week, plus anything that I had to share from my blog. So you can go back quite a ways and collect a lot of great resources there. And definitely feel free to join me on Monday nights if you're available. We have a great time hanging out and chatting on those. As far as what I have put on my blog recently, I did do my 12 days of ChromeOS. So if you missed any of those, all 12 of those are available. Basically, it's 12 blog posts and videos on how to make the most out of Google Chrome. Altogether, I think it's about an hour and 15 minutes worth of videos. If you put them all together, they're pretty short, like 5 minutes long each. And they just cover loads of things from, tabs to using to tips for bookmarking, incognito mode, keyboard shortcuts, extensions, making best use of your history, managing multiple accounts, all kinds of things. So, hey, if you want to pick up some new tips for Chrome, run through that. If you got somebody who's maybe not as comfortable with Chrome, maybe they're just using it just for browsing and they're not taking advantage of all these features, this would be a great way to get people really caught up to date and making the most out of Google Chrome. And then the last thing I'm going to mention is my main posts from this last month, from January, has been on photo words. So I did 2 different posts here. The first one was like an introduction to photo words, and it has a 16-minute video with it. And then the second one was a more in-depth exploration where I did a 90-minute webinar. So if you really want to go in deep. Now, what if you haven't seen photo words yet, what are we talking about here? Well, what I'm talking about is where you take a word and you put a photo inside of the word. Now, I don't know if it's really called a photo word. That's just what I call it. And so I've seen these done with Photoshop. I've seen them done with, other tools that are more graphic design tools. I was able to figure out a way to do it in Google Slides. And it took a while, but I was able to come up with a way to do this in Google Slides. So I did examples like, a word of the year, or taking my name and putting a picture of myself inside of each letter. Or here I did one for Ohio. I did one for the New York skyline. I just did the word sunset. Here I did the word dive. And here I did the word burger, put the word burger inside of a burger. And then I also did some animated ones as well. So I ended up basically showing folks how to do that, how you can create those. I'm not going to, go through that whole process right now, because I think most of you who are interested have probably already seen this, but I'll just give you the absolute basic idea, and then encourage you, go ahead and dive on into the 16-minute video or the hour-and-a-half video if you really want to go deep. What this really comes down to is using word art, creating a word, and then having a photo that you want to put inside of the word so that it winds up like this. And the whole trick to this, it's all about the font. That's it. The entire trick is the font, because most every single font that Google has, and they've got over 1,400 and some fonts, most every single font has color inside of the letters, and then it's transparent outside of the letters. Well, what you need for a photo word is you need the inverse. You need the inside of the letters to be transparent and the outside of the letters to be filled in. And there is one font that does that in the Google Web Fonts. And so once you put your word art in, if you go to your font menu, you need to go find a font called Zilla. Zilla, what was the full name of it? Zilla Slab Highlight. So if you don't have that font, you can just search for it, Zilla. Whoops, got to type in the box here. That would probably help. And that's it. Zilla Slab Highlight is the name of the font. And so that's the font that you want. And so if I come here and I choose Zilla Slab Highlight, what you'll notice is it's inverted. Inside of the letters is transparent, outside of the letters is filled in. And so now you can, resize this to get it the way you want, make it bold so you've got more interior space, and then basically take your picture and insert your picture in there. And of course, you need to get it all lined up just right so that, it's going to fit. And so I don't know, you'd have to kind of play around with that to get it lined up. It may help to go into the format options and adjust the transparency so that you can see both of them at the same time. That can be, certainly helpful there. But the idea is you try to get this lined up so it looks pretty good. Like I think I put the little guy standing in the letter U when I did it. So you just kind of get it all lined up until it's just about right. Yeah, that's good enough for this example here. And then what I can do is I can drop that transparency back down. I can push this behind the word art by using the arrange menu to push that backwards. And then I can also, of course, crop this up so that it's not sticking out. Let me zoom out a little bit so I can see this a little bit better. I can crop up that background image so that it's not sticking out so we don't see it. And that's the main idea. Now there's probably, 12 different twists you can do on this, and that's what the 90-minute video is about. But for this one, if I do this and change this to a white fill and a white or a transparent border, boom, there we go. I've just created a photo word. So that's the whole idea behind it, but definitely explore more if you want to dig in deeper with the longer video there as well. So there you go. That's some of the stuff that I have shared recently on my site. I have a couple other fun things I came across that I linked in there as well. So that's it for me. As far as Stephanie and Sarah, again, they weren't able to join us this week, but always want to give them a shout out. Please make sure you're signed up for their updates. Sarah does a Tech You Can Do weekly newsletter. Stephanie has a Google group where she does a weekly update as well. Sarah just shared a really neat thing this week. I really loved hers. It was, and I don't know if I can get to it from here quickly enough or not. Where was it at? That's okay. That's an older one that she's got linked in there. But she did one where she talked about naming conventions for all of the different little buttons that we deal with. How sometimes we call this the waffle button up here, or how we'll use I call it the 3 dots button. She calls it the world's skinniest snowman, and then when you're in something like a Google slideshow and you've got I call this the drop-down arrow. She calls it the shark tooth, I thought it was really clever and great, especially for younger students. So always learning new things from her, which I really appreciate very much. All right. Well, John, it looks like you may have been able to pull up some stuff. So did you want to chat about this?
Yeah, I think just briefly, and several people did comment in the chat, and they know that keyboard shortcut. But for those of you, again, if you're not on a Chromebook, if you have a Mac or a PC and you want to get the most out of Google, having the Google Drive app and I'm not exactly sure if that's the right word to call it, but that's what it was in the article. But use typical Google Drive stream, but it you install it on your computer, and it basically mounts your Google Drive as an external storage that you can then interact with from your computer. And it really, if you haven't thought or done this before, it brings to the table a few interesting things, such as you can then open things that you would normally open on your computer, but store in Google Drive. Most recently, I have been doing that with, in fact, some Photoshop documents that I wanted to open up. And so I was able, somebody had shared with me, for example, a JPEG file, and I needed to then open that up in Photoshop. And I could then go into my Google Drive, and then I could just right click and choose open in, and then I could choose Photoshop, because it's made that bridge between the web version of Google Drive and this new mounted version of Google Drive, which means that your operating system understands that certain files are opened by certain kinds of applications, and it really does make your life easier when you have that in there. And so I didn't know that if you do Control-Alt-G on a Windows machine, it will open up a little searchable box, and then you can search and find something, and then open that document up. So rather than going to your Google Drive and then doing a search for something, you can do it right there from your desktop. So it's a handy feature. If you're on a Mac, it's Command-Option-G or Open Apple Option-G, and it does the same thing. And that's a little screenshot of, I just did it for my drive, and those were the 4 things that came up. It has that quick view where it shows you the most recent things you've been working on. It's a handy little tip.
That is fantastic. Yeah. And I noticed you mentioned in the chat that this came from Ryan Collins,
yes.
his Educate Me newsletter. I subscribe to that as well. And likewise, I've got to give major props to Ryan Collins. He shares wonderful resources in his Educate Me newsletter. I've picked up a lot of great tips and tricks from that. So I really appreciate that. Excellent. So good. Well, hey, and I'm seeing in the chat some love for some photo words. Ron saying that photo words are great. Same thing from Andrew. Kathleen mentioning that she's using them for personalized logos, different content, committee agendas, and more. So, hey, that's great. I'm glad you guys are enjoying this. I'm so excited to see what students and educators create with that. Well, let's take a look at what you guys had to share. So here's our community show and tell. And I don't know that I'll be able to speak intelligently to all of these things. I haven't had a chance to investigate them all, but let's give them a shout out here. Matt has shared about NBA Math Hoops, offline board game experience that simulates real basketball games using the stats of current NBA and WNBA athletes to practice math skills. Hey, I love that. I'm a previous math teacher, so always have love for math, especially things that are real world and use real world data. Also available as an app. Good to see that. Completely free, shipped directly to you in your classroom. That's awesome. Target grades 3 to 8. There are some training dates coming up for this and a contact for who to contact with that. And then there's a educator webinar tomorrow as well to discuss classroom setup, program overview, and how to receive your free class set. And there's a webinar link for that. Awesome. That's fantastic. Thank you, Matt, so much for sharing that. That is really, really neat. It combines a lot of things I love. I love math, of course, because I was a math teacher, but anybody knows me, I'm a big tabletop board game person, whether it's card games, whether it's a board game, whether it's a role-playing tabletop game, all kinds of, and if it's, a bunch of us sitting around a table playing a game with cards and dice and things, love it, love it, love it. So this checks off all the boxes of the things that I love. That is so cool. And then, yes, I know I just mentioned this in my my EdTech links of the week, but here, yep, these are the same ones I just had mentioned. Yes, Chat GPT 0 and this one. The HF is for Hugging Face. That's that's why I called it the Hugging Face website, because that's what that's from. That's what that's an abbreviation for. That's how I keep them separate in my mind there. Yes, these are the two that I had mentioned just a few minutes ago in my EdTech links of the week. for what it's worth, I think they are both valuable. I will let you know that I found, I believe it was ChatGPT 0. Yes, that's the one that I found to be a little more robust and a little bit more, I guess accurate's the right word. Here's what I mean by that. So if I pull these back up real quick, I'll just show you the GIFs. So the first one, the hugging face one, you basically put in your text and it just runs and it tells you, yes, fake or real. Whereas ChatGPT 0 did the multiple tests. It does perplexity, it does average perplexity, it does burstiness, and it looks at a lot of things. Now, what I did was I ran a lot of the same text through both of them to see. And they both did a good job. I do want to say that they both did a nice job. However, what I did was I actually went to ChatGPT and I said, hey, I said something along the lines of, write an essay about how it can be difficult to tell the difference between, human and AI written. And this was the text it gave me. It can be tricky to tell the difference, between these two. And so I copied that directly from ChatGPT and I put it into both of them. And they both said, this is fake right away. They both said this is fake. But then I went within that same ChatGPT window, I said something to the effect of, could you please rewrite that response in a way that would seem to be more likely to have been written by a human than an AI? And it said, okay. It rewrote it. And I put it back in here again. And that's why when you see this animated GIF going through here, the second time it goes through where it says, or maybe it's the first time where it goes through and it says real, that was also from ChatGPT. It fooled it right away. I was able to just say, write this a little more human-like, and it caught it immediately. Or excuse me, it didn't catch it. It went right through. It thought it was a real. It thought it was from a human. So ChatGPT 2 did not seem to catch that as well. Whereas this one, it wasn't able to say. It came back and said, I need more samples of this writing. It was not able to draw a conclusion. I also put in my own writing. I took several paragraphs from an essay I had written, and they both said this was written by a human. So I was glad of that. I've said before, I have failed enough CAPTCHAs that sometimes I doubt my own humanity. But at least in this case, they think I'm a human. So
Eric, isn't it interesting that we only started talking about ChatGPT, well, was it a month ago? I mean, it hasn't been that long.
It wasn't very long ago because
already we have two sites that will check to see whether that is authentic. And I mean, I just think that level of innovation that someone has come up and with a solution to that, which doesn't necessarily, like one of the solutions that they've had in the schools is, well, we're just going to block it. And I think
right,
for various reasons, that's a very short-sighted, that's like not teaching somebody to cross the road, just saying, no, you can't go across the road.
Right.
And I think that the level of innovation that's happened there is really quite fascinating. But I also will have to own up to the fact that in working on some of our own websites for Northern Buckeye this week, we have, when looking for a narrative to describe a particular thing that we do, we've actually been asking ChatGPT to help us with that narrative, and it actually does really quite a good job of putting together words that explain a particular concept much better than I could. And I think that the value of it is as a tool, and a tool is not the author of the work and shouldn't be attributed as such, but it is something that the author uses in order to come up with a completed work. And the iteration that happens in the human mind. So you mentioned the idea that you gave it a refinement and that was able to refine it and make it into something that was. And so I remember in the example that there was, I attended a thing and it was earlier on in the year, but there was a 5th grade teacher and he was talking about how you could then make it sort of in the style of a 5th grader, or that you could make it into a nursery rhyme, and I forget, I think one of my people at Northern Buckeye, this Chris Malanga, I think he said he did, I can't remember what it was, but it was like the theme to Gilligan's Island, but done as a like in a different genre or something, and it was
Right.
able to do it. So I mean, it's whatever your mind can think of that you want. That's where the creativity comes in that we can get from our students, is what they use their minds to employ this tool to make something.
Absolutely. Well said, John. I mean, I think the key there, what you're saying is, not to have a knee-jerk reaction to this and just say, turn it off, block it. But we need to look at this and say, how can this help educators? I see Michael had commented, we need to let admin and teachers know how to use ChatGPT in a positive way. We don't want teachers to fear AI, but to embrace it. There are many ways to use ChatGPT to save teachers time, for example. Absolutely. And for what it's worth, for those that come to OETC, if you are there for the third day of OETC, the keynote that I'll be giving on that day is about artificial intelligence. That's actually really interesting because this is something I've been talking about for several years, talking about how this was going to be the thing. AI is going to be the thing that we all have to deal with as educators, and it's couldn't be more timely now. And so I will be addressing that as the theme of the keynote that I'm giving on the last day of OETC. But for what it's worth, John, yeah, you nailed it. That's in a large part the idea I'll be taking into that presentation when I give it is to look at the positive side of this and how it can help students and how it can help teachers, as opposed to just saying, put our fingers in our ears and ignore this. The genie's out of the bottle. It's not going back. It's
And
just going to
also,
go further. I mean, I was reading an article from the Washington Post today that I think most of us have heard this, but they were really going to detail about how Microsoft has put a significant, like $1 billion plus investment into OpenAI. OpenAI is the company that does ChatGPT and DALL-E 2, which does the image generation. And Microsoft said this will be the OpenAI artificial intelligence tools. They will be integrated into every Microsoft product. It will be in Word helping you write. It'll be in Bing helping you search. It'll be in everything they do. Now, there's no way that Google is going to just sit back and just ignore that,
right.
because Canva's doing the same thing. Canva has AI built into their Magic Writer tool, and they've got image generation built into Canva as well. Well, Google is sitting on top of probably, in my opinion, the most powerful AI in the world today. As much as ChatGPT blows our minds, Google has Lambda, and Lambda is just phenomenal. But they are very cautious. They're very careful. Like, oh, we're afraid to put something out before we're sure. What if it tells somebody something that's not quite right? And I don't know. They're going to have to respond. They absolutely have to respond to this, because I'll tell you, I have started to go to ChatGPT instead of Google search to look
Right.
things up. Now, not everything. Like if I need to know the showtime of a movie, well, it's not going to know that. But when I have a general knowledge question, instead of going to Google and getting the top 10 website hits and then researching them myself, ChatGPT reads them, synthesizes them, and gives me the feedback that I can then ask additional questions. It's been a wonderful tool for me. And any search engine that can provide that, that's going to be a giant draw. So this is going to be very, very interesting to see going forward.
If you think about it, the first search engine, and I remember we're talking like very like mid to late 90s, Netscape had been out for a while, and it was before, I think we just had gotten Internet Explorer. But that was when we got everybody, if you asked everybody, well, how do you find anything on the internet? Well, we go to Yahoo, because Yahoo was the only place where you could go to find something. And then this thing called Google came along, and now we take it for granted that if we want to find anything, that we go to a search engine. But a search engine was a relatively new concept in the in the early 2000s, and so fast forward here 23 years, and we now have an interface where we can ask it a question in the same way that we would ask a person a question, and it will give us an answer in the same way that a person would give us an answer. Now, we have to evaluate whether that is a valid answer, and I think some of
Oh,
the
yes.
reading that I've done on
Absolutely.
it is that sometimes AI is not afraid to, if it doesn't know the answer, just make something up, with hilarious results. And I mean, I think if you can think about some of the, when you are narrating into your phone or asking it a question, or you're texting somebody using voice to text, and it thinks that you said something that you didn't say with hilarious results. I think it's the same thing. You have to use your brain and work out whether something is valid and is accurate. And there has to be a human monitoring the input output to make sure that everything is of quality. And that's the skill that our teachers are going to have to understand and pass on to their students.
Oh, absolutely. That makes so much sense. It's always been the case. Like, that's not a new concept. It's just more important than it's ever been. Information literacy, being able to evaluate content, that's always been important, but never as important as this, because the AI is so fast and it seems so authoritative. It seems so confident in what it says that, yes, it's more important than ever for us to be able to then evaluate the information that we get back. And this is the tip of the iceberg. This is Chat GPT that we're looking at right now. That's just the current generation. There's another generation they've already created that's supposed to be available like in March. They're going to start rolling it out, I think. And it's supposed to be orders of magnitude more powerful than this one. So, this is just the little teeny tip of the iceberg introduction
It's an
to what
exciting
we're going to
time to
see
be
here.
in education when you see
Yeah.
this level of innovation that's happening with AI, and then the response that's coming from the educational community. It's going to be exciting to see what 2023 has
Absolutely.
to offer.
Absolutely. I do appreciate everybody who's adding additional resources in here. Thank you very much. I do believe I might be familiar with this first one here, if this is the slideshow I'm thinking of. No, this is not. This is a different one. So I don't know that I have seen this one. I don't believe I have. Okay, so I'm really looking forward to that one. But the other one maybe is the one of these was from was it Dr. Trust, I think, had done one of these. Was it? Oh, it must be this one here. Is this the one I was thinking of? Yes. I've seen this one. So this is an excellent, excellent one as well. That is a wonderful slideshow that is getting updated frequently on all of these exact same issues. So thank you for sharing the other one. That is not one that I have seen yet, so I appreciate that very much. I think we're not going to solve this today, but I think what John has said and what many others have said here encourages me that folks are not going into this blindly. They're not just being like, "Oh, this is wonderful," except for Matt. I'm a little worried about Matt. He is welcoming our robot overlords. So other than Matt, no, everybody is going into this. I appreciate with a sense of caution, but with a sense of how can we use this? Like I said earlier, any tool you create, educators are going to look at it and they're going to say, here's what I can do with it. We're going to take these tools and we're going to find ways to improve our teaching and our students' learning, to help struggling students, to help students achieve more, learn more, do more, communicate better. And so I'm very happy to see that is the general attitude that is being shared here. So excellent. I did see Beth mentioned she had similar experiences with the Chat GPT detector. She had put in some text that was generated from AI, and it did think it was human. So yes, Beth, I likewise have been able to get around it, and so they're not necessarily. I would never want somebody to take a student's work, throw it into one of these, and then take that result and say, that's the answer, and you're in trouble because you copied, or nope, this must be fine. These can only be a tool to begin a conversation, and these tools are going to have to keep developing as they go. All right, folks. Well, that brings us up to our final section here, which is questions and answers. Now, again, if I've missed anything, please throw it in the chat. John's keeping an eye on things, and he may be able to see something that I miss as well. But we do want to get to your questions and answers, and I did see a few of those had popped up. Now, I was able to catch a couple of these earlier, and I reached out to some people to get some feedback, and I hope I was able to get the information you needed. The first question here was asking about practice sets. So practice sets were announced quite a while ago, like last summer. This person said their school has the teaching and learning update, but they still don't see practice sets in Google Classroom. Is it not rolled out yet? What's going on? So I reached out to one of our Google reps, and the answer they gave me was that schools still need to be added to the allow list for the beta. It is still technically, I guess, being considered a beta. I thought it was out of beta, and that's my misunderstanding, but I thought I heard somewhere it was done, it was out of beta. That is not the case. That to be able to use it, you still need to be in that beta list. So I reached back out and said, okay, so how do they get on that list? And this is what I just got. While John was chatting, I was double checking my email, trying to multitask here. And I did get a response back. It says that the schools would need to be on the relevant SKU. But, that just means, that the tier, in this case, teaching and learning or education plus, and fill out an application. And so this application here has been linked in, and I hope, says I've already responded. Well, yeah, because I did. That's because I'm on my school account. But that would be the link that would let you get added to that. So apparently we're not out of beta yet. You need to be on that beta list and have the right education tier to access practice sets. Next thing up, if you guys have different answers to any of these or more details, please let me know. Type in the doc, put it in the chat, whatever the case. So next up, there was a question: is there an extension or a way to search specific Google Classrooms, as I have around 200 classrooms to look after as a school coordinator? So when I saw this one, I thought of Schoolitics. That was what came to my mind. Now, if somebody has a different solution, an alternate solution, please share it. But I thought of Schoolitics as a good option for this. If you're not familiar with them, their teacher accounts are completely free, like no strings attached, no gotchas. They really are free for teachers. There's a paid version for administrators, for parents, and some other groups like that. But for teachers, it is free. And basically what it is a service that sits on top of your Google Classroom data. And it can pull in your classroom data. And then with that data, it can then let you access things a lot easier. Now, again, I hope I'm not saying anything wrong. I did link in Anna. I know teacher accounts are free. I'm thinking, Anna, there might be a limit as to how many classrooms you can connect on the free account. It may not be 200. So I don't want to misspeak here. I know that teachers can absolutely connect for free, but I think you may have a limit on how many classes you can sync with in that. So please forgive me if I misspoke there. But Anna is from Schoolitics. She's an awesome person, and she said I could share her email if you want to reach out to her. But here's her response. She goes, yes, this is exactly what Schoolitics solves. There's a search and filter functionality at every single level. Now, if you head out to the Schoolitics website, you can learn all about it there. One of the easiest things to do is if you go up to their resources tab in the top right, they have an interactive demo. And if you click on the interactive demo on the resources tab, it pulls up some fake data, but it lets you see what this could look like if you were a teacher. And so I can go in here and I could say, okay, I'm going to take a look at, my assignments. And so I click on assignments, and I'll change this date to go from the beginning of the school year till now. And so here's all of my assignments. Now, there's only like 53 in this demo, but you can have hundreds in here. Well, the thing is, this is crossing all of your different classes. So I could come in here and say, you know what? I've got an assignment. It's, 8 point, B or something like that. Well, now it'll find all of those assignments for me. It can run a search across all of those. Or if I go to my student work, I could do the same thing. I could say, show me the entire year, but I'm looking specifically for, an assignment, from, maybe I've got a student named Aaron. I'm looking for anything from Aaron. Oh, here's all of Aaron's stuff, and you can go in and you can filter with advanced filters to find just what you're looking for. So that may really help you if you've got 200 classes to be able to get all of that data synced to Schoolalytics and then be able to run through these summaries to pull things up. And Anna did throw in the chat, and yes, 10 is, and that's what I thought, Anna. Well, as soon as I was saying it, I thought, oh, I got to catch myself, because as soon as I said it, that's what I remembered it being, was that there was a limit of 10 for how many you can sync on the free version there. But nevertheless, I wanted to get this out as an option. When I heard what you were trying to work through there, I thought, well, that's kind of what Schoolalytics does. It pulls that information in and allows you to see it in an easier way. So maybe that's going to help. Looks like John's throwing in a webinar that Alice Keeler did with Anna as well. So anyway, that was my thought when I saw that. So wanted to go ahead and share that out with you guys. While you're taking a look at that, I did see Kathleen said that her district does have practice sets. They're a beta district for it, and they've been using it for morning work, and it's nice that it grades, and the grades go right into the Google Classroom gradebook. Glad to hear practice sets has been going well for you. So again, if you do have questions, though, on Schoolalytics, reach out to Anna. That might be something that would be a good solution to this issue. But hey, it's a great tool. Even if you do nothing but just, hey guys, you have nothing to lose, go in and sign up for a free account. And if you've got 10 or less classes to sync in, you're set. You can dive into all of this amazing resources to be able to see students that have kind of fallen off, that maybe are not engaging as much as they should, see what's late, just all this stuff just right there in these gorgeous, gorgeous dashboards to be able to get access to that data. Good stuff. All right. The next question I saw here was about somebody's Google Drive is filled with old assignments from students that have graduated and moved on. I tried to delete them, but I can't because it is shared with them. Is there a way to delete them to clear up my drive? So my short response here was, it kind of depends on whether you own the files or not. If you own the files, like if they turned them in through Classroom, please do not delete them, because you need to give them back to the student. If you are the owner of the file, if you go into, I guess I could bring up my drive and show you what I mean by that. And again, these are not real classes. These are just, things that I would do for like trainings and stuff like that. So if I come in here and I go to Classroom and I just grab one of my demo classes here, I'm sure, who knows what sort of demo. I have so many demos here. We'll just grab one of these, and hopefully we'll have something in here that I can use as an example. But
so,
if I come
Eric,
in here,
I think that the first commandment of dealing with Google Classroom is, thou shalt not do anything with the Classroom folder in your Google Drive, because that the whole purpose of that folder is that Google Classroom keeps track of everything in there.
Well, so I think you should definitely be cautious. I agree with you there. We should be cautious of what we do in these folders here. Yes, I've heard a lot of people who have accidentally, lost a class and had a hard time getting it back, later. But in a case like this, all I'm doing is I'm going in to look at these files that have been turned in. Now, in all of these, this is from an old boot camp. You'll see the owner says me, which means I didn't return those.
Right.
I didn't give those back to the person. Well, this was just a demo. It wasn't meant to be like a real class, so that's okay. In a case like that, make sure you return these. Don't try to delete something that you're still the owner of, because then the student will lose it as well. However, if you did return it, if you go into Drive and you look at it, I'll pick a different boot camp, maybe one that I actually returned something in. There you go. So in some of these, you'll see the owners are other people. I did return those. In a case like that, you are allowed to delete files. it's okay. You are allowed to delete them because you're not actually deleting the file. If you're not the owner, you can't really delete a file. And these are people that have graduated, they've moved on. If you try to delete it, what's going to happen is it's going to say, do you want to remove it instead? So if I came here and I went to the trash can button, it's going to say, do you want to remove this file? They still have access. It doesn't get rid of it. They're still the owner. They have access. It just removes it from my list so I don't see it anymore. Same thing with shared with me. If you're in your shared with me folder and there's stuff in shared with me, you can do the same thing. I don't do this because it's just too much work. It's too much to try to keep on top of that. I don't do that, but if you need to, those are my words of warning. Make sure you're not the owner if somebody that should belong to somebody else. And yes, you are allowed to remove it from your drive if you want to. But
and then I'll just add, there is something called Google Takeout that may or may not be enabled for your students. And I think the latest recommendation I heard was to have your tech coordinator turn that on towards the end of the year so that your graduating students can grab their stuff and have it downloaded and put into their own storage before they then turn it off again.
Yeah. So I do have a blog post that I've done on that. I try to keep it up to date, so I've redone it a couple of times as it's needed to be updated. But so the Google Takeout tool, there's two versions of it. There's the regular, just commercial version, I guess, just for regular users. Then there's an education version of Takeout. They are completely different. I wish they named them something different. They're not the same thing at all, but they're both called Takeout. There's Google Takeout and there's Google Takeout for Schools. Totally different tool. That's what they want to use. If they go to the regular Google Takeout, it's a very frustrating experience compared to what this does. Takeout for Schools allows you basically to go in and say, okay, I'm going somewhere else. I'm moving to a new school. I'm retiring. I'm graduating. All you have to do is tell it what the other account is going to be that you want to send it to. So you say, okay, I want to transfer everything to this other Google account. It sends a code to that account. You verify that it's okay to transfer it. And then you go in and you tell it what you want to transfer, your Drive and or your Gmail, and it does it. You don't have to sit around and wait for it. It happens in the background. It can take days if you've got a lot of stuff. But what it does is it creates new folders in your Drive. It's going to be Gmail and Drive. In Gmail, it creates a new folder to hold all of the incoming email. And in Drive, it also creates a new folder to hold all of the incoming files. And it makes a copy of everything. So it's not transferring it, it's copying it. It's making a brand new copy. Now, heads up, it copies everything in your Drive. I wish you could micromanage it. It copies everything. So some people have gotten in there and been like, oh, I did not want all of this stuff. This is way too much stuff. That would be fantastic if we could go. They just need to add a couple more buttons in there, and then this would be a perfect tool. But it's definitely a really nice option for folks.
And it's something that you should be preparing your students for so that they understand, because they probably don't even know or haven't thought about that transition. But if they're going on to college and they already have their college account and it's a Google account, then they can just move their files directly into their college Google account.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Keep going.
Yeah. It looks like our last couple of questions here. Let's see. I heard forever ago that Google Slides was supposed to get a closed caption feature where the captions are saved to a doc. Does anybody know about that? So certainly we've had the closed captioning of slides for quite a while. The ability to save it to a doc, I think I've heard those same rumors. Not that I'm aware of. Looks like somebody has put a link in here talking about the captions. Yep. So certainly they're there. But as far as getting it to save to a document, I think I heard that too at some point. But no, I've not heard anything new since. The only update I saw was way up here back in our What's New in Google. I skipped over it, but there was an update here about improved voice features for docs and slides. And the feature just was saying that when you present in slides and you do the closed captioning, it will now include punctuation. So they've improved it. It used to not have punctuation, so now it has punctuation in it, but nothing mentioning here about saving it to docs, which I think would be fantastic. But no, haven't seen that. And then let's see, following up on question 1, is anyone using it regularly? And if so, what grade level and content areas? So yeah, if anybody does want to give some feedback there, I know I had mentioned again that Kathleen had talked about using that. But if anybody else wants to add something in about how you've used practice sets, please feel free to share your experience with that. All right, good stuff. Well, John, I think we are getting to the end then. So let's do a couple of things. First of all, if you guys have anything that you still want to share, please speak now. Now's the time to do it. If we miss something, if there's something you meant to share, throw it in the chat or throw it in the Q&A or throw it in the community show and tell. I'm going to give everybody a moment to do that while I just do a quick little wrap up here for us. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. That's always such a commitment, and I really appreciate whether you're here live or watching the recording. I hope this helps you and prepares you to help support your teachers and your students more. Keep in mind, if you didn't sign in, we would love for you to sign in. On page 2 of the agenda under important links, there's the sign-in form so that I can send you a certificate of attendance. Helps us keep track of our numbers and who's attending these events. Keep in mind, we do have these monthly. And so if you are curious about when the next one is, you can always, again, go to the GEG Ohio website at bit.ly/GEG Ohio. And on that website, you will see the monthly meetings link, and you'll see the agenda or the scheduled list of the upcoming meetings. Our next one is scheduled for February 2nd. I already have the agenda link, which is pretty much empty. There's not much in it yet, obviously. And then the link for what will be the live video. I've added something new, though. I've started to add a calendar links to things. So if you want to add it directly to your calendar, you can click that calendar link and it will actually put the event right on your calendar. That way, it just will be easier to be able to get back to it later. Tentatively, March, April, and May, we've got dates for those as well. Always check back here, though, just to make sure, because we may need to move things around from time to time. In the meantime, in between, please join our Google Educator group, email group. It's a great way to communicate and stay in touch. Don't see anything new in the upcoming events. So I don't see anything new. If anything else got added in there, I apologize, but this is wonderful. Thank you for everybody who's put things in there. Let me check and see if there's anything else that popped up in the community show and tell. And I don't see anything new there. And in Q&A, did we get any more Q's or A's? I'm not seeing any. John, do you see anything that we missed that we need to still address before we wrap up?
Just going to mention that JoJo had asked if we are presenting on any Google topics that he would love to call by and support us. And there is a link that he's put in the document, and I will paste it into the chat so everybody can see it.
Where is that link at? Oh, is it this one here? Is this the one here?
Yep, that's the one.
Oh, right, okay. There. So that was under the welcome. Let's do this. Let's also put it, next to the OETC stuff. So here's the OETC stuff. Let's go ahead and let me just put it in here as well. All right. So this looks like a form. Okay. If you're presenting at OETC, JoJo would like to know about that, so that I think what was he saying, John? He was hoping to maybe.
I think he said he might have some swag, so some stickers and other Google goodness that he can have us share with our participants.
Excellent. That's great. Fantastic. Okay. So yeah, anybody who is going to OETC, if you're doing a Google session, let JoJo know about that. And hopefully he can swing by your session and drop off some swag and say hi. And again, anybody who's going to be there, I hope to see you there. I'm really looking forward to being back in person at OETC. Other than that, just want to thank everybody so much. We'll pop back on the screen here so you can see John and I really are still hanging out in the background here. I want to thank you guys so much, as always, for taking the time to be with us. It's great to learn with you. This is not just for us to share information. I learned from you guys so much during these sessions, and I really, really appreciate it. So until OETC, for those who see us there, and until next month for everybody else, take care, be safe, have a wonderful time, and look forward to learning with you guys again soon. Take care, everybody.
Take care.